topic today is human resource, and I think it's something that's going to become more and more important as the farm size increases and more people have to hire employees. The old mentality, I think, is a bit that you could just hire employees, work them so hard, burn them out, and then just hire the next batch. I don't really think that's an option anymore with how the market is, and you definitely, with your family, they don't have to come back to the farm. So definitely make sure you have management strategies is really important. It's definitely all about getting the most out of your employees to maximize your business. And it's definitely not just for the large-scale farms. Like I said, everyone needs to consider management strategies. So just to give an overview of what I'll talk about today, I think we'll talk about what better staff management means. It definitely can increase your bottom line. And we'll talk about how you can do that with clearly defined expectations on both sides and having clear lines of authority. And then talk a little bit about competitive compensation. Okay, so what benefits do I get from improving my management practices? So it definitely has a direct relation to your farm success. The better employee you have, it's going to be more efficient and you're going to have a better bottom line in the end. It definitely takes a lot of time to train and it's a lot of your time, and that's a big investment to make. So if you lose important employees, it's never good. Definitely a huge risk with losing them at a crucial point in time, right before calving or right before harvest, can definitely hinder your farm performance. And there's always that risk of if you're not training well enough, or you're not spending enough time training, then there's safety hazards that could happen. It's also super stressful. I don't think anyone likes to hire or fire. I don't think that's why you became farmers, is so you could get up in the morning and write a job description and get all pumped up about it. You're not like, wow, yeah, I love crunching numbers and I love doing HR strategizing. Just because you don't like doing it doesn't mean it's not important. You definitely still have to think about it. So just to summarize, people are your most important asset, and they're definitely your most complex asset. And turnover is extremely costly, and it wastes time and your energy. It's definitely less stressful if you can delegate to an employee and really trust them. And it definitely is an easier work-life balance if you feel confident about leaving the farm and going on a holiday. So that being said, I guess what is good pay, what is good help worth to you? Here's a few things I thought about when I was trying to think about how do you figure out your own compensation. So I think definitely trying to know, where the market's at in your neighborhood. You have to think about things like, do they have specialized skills? If their job adjusts, are you adjusting their pay accordingly? Is the pay fair for what they've been doing? And what's the spread between a seasonal employee or a full-time? These all have to be considerations. Basically, I think employees don't want to leave, so don't give them any reason to accept another offer. This is the bottom line. If they're at your farm, it's because they're passionate about the industry. They want this lifestyle, and they're excited to be there. They enjoy this view. Maybe they want to drive this equipment. That's fun for them. Maybe they love the livestock. Lots of people complain about having to compete for compensation with the oil field, and that's a genuine concern for sure. But you have to remember what else you can give them. They're there because they like the lifestyle and they want that environment. So basically, you're never going to be able to match the oil fields, but you have to try to come close. If you come close, then they can justify it that they're getting more out of their work and they can feel better about that. Money definitely talks, but in the long run, I think lifestyle really means something to people as well. So just another clicker question. I guess I put it out there to ask, your neighbors what they're paying. So we're just gonna take a poll in the group. Okay, this keeps happening to me. Like, I thought this was a joke, but the joke's on me because, yeah, I'm sure the students know that too, that they've been utilized on the farm for labor, but. One woman told me that I should change that to, that's why I got married, because I have free labor from my husband. But so there's also different ways to structure pay. So just, I guess, asking you guys how you do it. Okay, so I think we do have a lot of industry in the crowd, but a lot of you said strictly by the hour. Okay, so bonuses definitely adds to the compensation package and definitely can be a huge motivator for people. Money bonuses, they should definitely be structured on measurable items. So lots of people do weaning percentage or average daily gain, maybe death loss if they're in charge of herd health. These are all great motivators, obviously. Some people, when I talk about ad hoc bonuses, I mean, they're not regularly scheduled, they're just kind of random when you feel willing and the market's right maybe. But I talked to one farmer this year and he was having a good year, obviously, and he said his ad hoc bonus was he wanted to send his hired man to Disneyland. So I thought, wow, that's really nice. But then some gentleman told me yesterday that looking at the other side of it, when things are bad during BSC, his ad hoc bonus was that he started to give his employees freezer beef. So I mean, you can definitely be inventive, and he said they appreciated it, and he could never afford to give it away now, but that worked at the time, I guess. Maybe you don't want to be completely open with your books with your employee, but I definitely think the more you can help them explain where you're at financially and how the farm's doing, the more understanding they're going to be about compensation and about bonuses and what they expect there. They might only just see that new pickup truck in your farm and they might think everything's going great and not really understand the margins behind it. I also think with a farm, there's lots of perks that people kind of forget to put into compensation. So you might think you're only paying someone, $40,000, but you forget that they're driving the farm truck, they're using farm fuel, they're boarding their horse there, and you're feeding it. And there's a lot of additions that come with working on the farm that people seem to forget about. So with that, maybe we'll see how you guys give bonuses. Okay. Okay. So we have a tie. 28% give ad hoc bonuses on how they feel. And lots of people think that they're awesome to work for, and that's good enough. Okay, so another way, I guess, to share profit on the farm. When I talk about profit sharing, what I mean is, my example, I guess, is some people let their employees run cows in their herd, and maybe they're giving them a break on some of the overhead costs, and they have some kind of setup formalized like that where they, they might finance it through them, or like I said, they might just take it off the costs in general. So a lot of people feel like, oh, this makes my employees so much more invested. It's their cows with my cows, and they're right in there with me. Others feel like it could cause hard feelings, as sometimes their herd might start growing faster than yours, or as a farm grows, you might have to hire more employees, and then you have to start thinking about, are you going to offer every new employee the same deal you have going with a couple of them? I'm sure some of you do this maybe through your parents, and that's the setup you have. Tax savings, on the positive side, it can be a small business tax write-off for them. It's not just a salary anymore. It's also maybe potentially costly if you get used to having their cows in your herd and you're used to those margins, and that's how you measure yourself. One day they take all their cows and leave, well then your fixed costs just went up and you didn't really have time to adjust. So that's kind of the good and the bad. So I'll see if any of you are utilizing one of these kind of strategies. Okay, so quite a few of you said no, but then quite a few more said yes, and some said not applicable. So quite a mix, I guess. I guess the main message is either way, it's really important to know your cost of production, because if you have some kind of deal worked out like this, they might not be know how much exactly they're saving through you. And if you can break down their cost and show them, then I think that means a lot, and they can know the actual dollar amount. There's definitely things they're going to forget about that go into their cow. Depreciation of equipment, all that stuff adds up, and they might not really think about it. So just to summarize compensation, I think it definitely is a helpful motivator, and it should definitely be based on skills, experiences, and responsibilities. Basically, you want your compensation package to recruit new people, you want it to motivate your current employees, you want it to reward employees, and you want it to build loyalty. But just to mention, it's really not the only motivator. Lots of people discuss having flexibility at a job, and that means a lot to them. Or job security. I know my uncle hires for harvest, but he says, you know, if you're willing to work during harvest, I'll keep you all year, as long as you're here when it's busy. So I know maybe job security is big for some people. I also think younger people, maybe it's mentoring and learning, and that means a lot on a job. Just to mention a few things about hiring, like I said, I really think that you can't just keep burning people out, and you definitely will get a bad reputation, which isn't a good thing. You should try to be as proactive as you can about it and not retroactive, so that you don't have to hire in a pinch and then it doesn't turn into a good hire and you don't have time to train properly. It can all go bad quickly. I know that's kind of easier said than done, but I think it's a good note. Okay, so talk a little bit about from the employee perspective. So what is expected of them? Do they have an accurate written job description that helps them understand their position? Have you updated it if they've taken on newer roles? And are there clearly defined roles for family members? I think the more you can share with your employee, the better off you'll be in the long run. To do with farm goals and vision, if he comes in every morning and you just give him one task, well, he's probably not going to get that invested in the farm. Whereas if you can share a lot about where you're hoping to go, then it can definitely help, and they're going to be better employees because of it. So definitely having clear lines of authority helps. People need to know who they're reporting to, and having lots of communication. Basically, anything in writing is going to be more helpful. If it's written out and formalized, they're going to know where to go and look for that information. Some ways you can do this is a job description or maybe an organizational chart. So here's my example. Maybe you're this hired man, you're smiling in a field, just loving life, I guess, and you're working for a husband and a wife. Sometimes they might send you 3 different directions on the farm and you're not really sure where you're supposed to go. It gets super confusing. Plus they started bringing in little Johnny here, and he also wants you to do certain things to help him out. You're kind of torn a bunch of ways, and it's very confusing, I think, as an employee. Just something super simple like this really helps, and just even within family, it helps bring in the next generation if you can say who is ultimately going to be responsible for what. So the wife is going to be responsible for all the accounting. She's going to talk to me about my timesheet or my hours worked, and I don't have to, put her first when it comes to other jobs. Husband has a title, and then they decide, where their kid's going to fall into that plan. So a job description, it definitely does not have to be complex. It can be super simple, just outlining what the responsibility is, what the position is, and who they're accountable to. It also really helps as a transitional tool, so you're bringing in new people, they can see where the gaps are and what other people are already doing. New employees, they might not understand what other employees are doing on the farm. It also helps when you want to do a performance appraisal. So, are they doing more than you agreed upon? Are they doing less than you agreed upon? It definitely helps evaluate, train, reward, and discipline. So yeah, I think we talked about most of this. Regular face-to-face meetings, a lot of people mentioned, every morning they have coffee and they discuss what's going to happen that day. And I think that's really crucial, to having those face-to-face discussions and sharing with your employees what's happening. So basically, yeah, train them right, treat them right, and hopefully you'll keep them. If you have no people, then you have no business. And I know farmers get a little scared when I put up HR, like I'm going to make them talk about their feelings, and it gets a little warm and fuzzy. But you can't run your farm alone, so try to think about your employees and think about your family. They're employees too. They have other options. They don't have to be there. This is the market we're in, so definitely they're more important than your equipment and your cows. This is a tool I want to mention. If all of this freaks you out, that's fine. If you want more help with it, this website has a lot of resources. They're creating job description templates right now so that you can just plug in your information. They have a lot more on safety and standard operating procedures. They have an HR handbook. It's really a good resource if you want to improve HR on your farm.